Hello and welcome to Happy Talks. I'm Parag Pitafi. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, kindly do so and also hit the bell icon so that whatever I post reaches you immediately. By now, you must be anticipating the Prime Minister of Pakistan's meeting with the President Trump. A lot of discussion has gone into this, event, and people keep speculating what might be the discussion points. Remember that we haven't seen any curtain raiser coming from the other side, so one would actually rely on whatever stories we have. So far, the only report or story that we have seen, and every paper actually keeps running it, and channels also, is the writer's report, which is kind of balancing act. And remember, writers has this notorious habit of seeing everything through India's lens. So the problem right now is that we don't know what are the talking points which are going to be discussed, who is going to be part of this meeting. Of course, we have heard from Reuters report again that Pakistan's army chief might be accompanying the prime minister. We don't know whether the foreign minister. I would think that foreign minister will be a part of this discussion, foreign minister of Pakistan. Then on the other side, we know Marco Rubio, the NSA and Secretary of State is going to join in, and that actually helps in two aspects. On one side, he is NSA, so he can interact with the army chief also, and then he is Secretary of State, so he has that brief to interact with the foreign minister of Pakistan as well, and he is a reliable hand for the president of the US. That is not all. Usually in such meetings, Vice President J.D. Vance also sits through such meetings. So this is one aspect which is interesting. Now the second question that we don't know, talking points of course are pointed out, but the third thing that one doesn't get an answer to is whether this meeting was pre-scheduled or whether it is spur of the moment kind of development. If it is latter, that would even further, highlight the importance of this meeting. Remember, these days, because of the UNGA session, U.S. president is very busy, and usually most of the visiting head of states or governments actually are have pre-scheduled meetings. So usually American president spends a lot of time meeting with people. So finding a carve out for spur of the moment meeting is quite intriguing. Now let us talk about the important talking points that might be there. One aspect that is important, and recently the development that we have seen is Pakistan Saudi security agreement, right? On that, of course, you have seen how Western media actually keeps on adding spin. Every time they speak, they keep on actually trying to obsess or focus on whether it is sign of a U.S. retreat, or whether Pakistan nukes are going to be loose nukes or whatever, Islamic bomb and all that BS that you have been actually following for quite some time. Remember, regarding the latter, it is important to remember that Pakistan endured 23 years of war and terror. At that time, the country had these nuclear bombs, and we proved it through our, protectors and all the safeguards that were in place, that no harm can be done to such a facility. So Pakistan is a rational actor, and that actually shows in its behavior. All this propaganda, media propaganda, spin, especially to placate India, to placate Israel, is not going to actually hold any water. Now, the second aspect, whether it is retreat of the U.S., that's why there is a kind of a security agreement between long-standing U.S. partners, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan or not, is a big question. and media somehow keeps on actually trying to prove, because again it is being informed by the Indian sensibilities, that look, the US is withdrawing and that's why Pakistan is just capturing this space. I don't think this is how things work. The US president has his own take on world affairs, and there's one thing very clear. He thinks that all these countries, Committee of Nations, have been asking America to fill in the security gap, and while doing so, it they haven't even paid up. His concern is quite specific when it comes to NATO. There, he has repeatedly asked the European countries to increase their contribution to NATO security so that the US does not have to pay up so much. He said something similar last time when he was in power regarding South Korea and Japan security as well. So these concerns, it seems that the US, and by the way, remember that at this moment as we speak, the US has accumulated a total debt of whopping $37 trillion. Just, just try to wrap your head around this amount. So the US actually wants to work as the supervisor, but it wants to have local security architectures in place. So in Europe also similar kind of arrangement. Then the US president actually tries to reach out to Russia, to China, even North Korea. Repeatedly, he has actually mentioned his good relations with Kim Jong Un. So, what does that show? He believes that whatever America's core interest, it can be taken care by America itself. And when it comes to regional partners, they should be able to work together in tandem. And that also implies, and that is quite interesting an aspect, that also implies that the US would want various agreements to actually take place and countries to work together. Remember that when it comes to Pakistan and Saudi agreement, there is a background. Recently, we saw an attack by Israel on Qatar. When Iran actually attacked Qatar, at that time, U.S. facilities came into action, missile defense came into action, and missiles were not allowed to hit their mark. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. Here, what exactly is happening? Here, you see that Israel came, bombed, and went away. And then it keeps on saying that we might come again. And there, the problem lies with a country which has so much closeness both with Israel and with countries like Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, where it also has one of the largest bases in the region. That how do you balance between the two? So, what is the best way possible to create or encourage a regional architecture of security and defense, right? So that is happening. So that would mean that the US is informed and would actually be actively encouraging, because that way it doesn't lose the goodwill of Israel, it does not lose the goodwill of Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Qatar, and all GCC countries. So this is something that you have to bear in mind. The second aspect is, of course, the India-Pakistan fight that we had in May. That actually provides a very important backdrop against which this meeting is happening. And then look at a couple of other very important developments. Afghanistan is a concern, and you have heard about Bagram Air Base too, and that's not all. Then you have, war and terror, where both countries are cooperating. Then they also signed trade deal, and then an investment deal. So there are many things that are going to be discussed. Now, if I were part of the delegation, and if I were to ask for something, what would I ask? I would have definitely requested the access to Western compute when it comes to development of AI. Remember that there are very few countries which, according to CHIPS Act and other acts, which have access to these high quality GPUs. So, if Pakistan gets access, it will create, economic activity. It will help Pakistan a lot. And then this concern regarding China getting access to those technologies, you would know that when it comes to Nvidia, the US, China actually has banned Nvidia chips, and that means the Chinese government does not want access to these technologies now. It thinks that it already has the kind of technology it needs. And we have seen in DeepSeek, we have seen also in the reports about um, quantum computing that Chinese are doing, not through the ice cold chips, but through laser, magnifiers. So with that kind of a capacity, they perhaps don't need that access. So all this propaganda, somehow access to Western compute will actually end up in China's hand. That is also rubbish. So Pakistan can definitely ask for this kind of access, and then of course Pakistan can, the Prime Minister later, because he still has to actually speak at the UNGA, so he can. And he is going to meet with business leaders in the US also. He can always encourage investment in Pakistan, because that can help play a very important role in bringing Pakistan and the US together. Again, another aspect that is quite intriguing, and I have been arguing for this because I have been speaking against the idea of decoupling between China and America. So my argument has been repeatedly that both these countries should work together because their economies are dependent on each other, right? So it is complex interdependence, and they should be working. And what other country than Pakistan? There are two regions where they can actually explore the potential of working together. One is, one is Africa, the other is Pakistan. In Africa, both are actually working side by side because both have different things to offer. China actually offers, hard infrastructure, roads, bridges, and similar things. America actually does something else. It goes for soft infrastructure, trade agreements, trade corridors, ability to connect countries and ports, and all those facilities. So there's a great potential, and because Pakistan has a very healthy relationship with China and America, it can be, and Pakistan is part of CPEC. Pakistan is exploring similar kind of agreements with the US as well. So there's always a possibility when you work in the third country, you can compare notes and you can actually build on each other's synergies. So that is something that I keep on actually talking about. I don't know whether it will happen or not. I think that in TikTok's case, we have seen a great hope, a sign of hope, because in coming days, President Trump is also going to meet with President Xi in South Korea, and after that, he is also going to visit China, and then next year, I think early next year, President Xi might also visit the US. So the stage is set, right, for a cooperation that might actually be able to bring together the world. I know Western media because it is informed by two important players, India and Israel, and they actually keep on trying to project President Trump as a disruptor of negative kind. Honestly, I tell you, when I look at him, of course, he has this habit of going to the stage and playing with his audience, toying with his audience. And when he does that, he, of course, is very creative, and then he finds controversies to play with. But regardless of that, whenever I look at his intentions and things that he is doing, I see a person who is not only a patriot, but who actually wants a peaceful world. Why else would you want to actually reach out to all those countries that your traditional state did not actually want to connect with? And that is not all. Russia, China, North Korea, even Iran, he wants to connect with them but does not want to lose allies. And then he openly speaks about denuclearization. So, if you have a leader of that sort, you should be able to capitalize on his good nature. Of course, these leaders with so much success and experience have personalities where, of course, you can actually start a fight. Look at India as an example. They just walked into some kind of fight and they don't know what hit them, right? But there are good ways to actually be creative, engaging, and work on the commonalities of interest. If that is done, today's meeting will have a great and lasting impact. Let us hope in coming days we see. By the way, when I was talking about Saudi and Pakistan security agreement, I forgot to mention that recently I was in Shanghai. So there also, I kept on listening because parallel to what we were doing, there was an SEO summit that was going on. And on the sidelines of that, whatever people were saying, one heard that it was reported in the media as well, not only Chinese media, Pakistani media. And there it was clear that even China wants Pakistan to play a constructive role, not only in South Asia, not only connecting with Central Asia, but also with Arab countries. So that there seems to be a convergence between China and America's point of view. With that kind of state of affairs, let me bring attention back to Pakistan's importance. And this is one thing that most analysts do not want to actually focus on. Pakistan is blessed with the capacity to connect with many regions, and it somehow becomes a cipher key to various regions. One to South Asia, of course, there's India, but we can work around that as well. That was the point of my visit to China as well, that one has to create some kind of alternative to SARC until SARC actually comes back to life. The second thing is Middle East, because we have been deploying our forces in the region for quite some time. And the third one is through Afghanistan, Central Asia also. So Pakistan has this connective tissue which can actually solve riddles of many regions. And then remember that there's SEO and then there's ECO. So Pakistan's role is going to be actually further increased, emphasized in coming days. We still have to see whether we see any readout from today's meeting or not after it is done. But I'm hoping that regardless of that, President Trump is going to speak about that at any rate. He spoke about his meeting with Army Chief Jahel Sharif. That was also something quite intriguing. So I thought that you should know all these matters. With this, I will try to actually bring back the channel to life because I have not been posting. I had an unfortunate setback, actually a tragedy in life. My mother passed away recently, so I'm heartbroken. I was occupied by that as well. But this channel will keep bringing more information and analysis to you, and I hope to start actually Zoom calls with various influentials in coming days as well. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't followed the channel, kindly do so. Hit the bell icon and keep a lookout for my socials because I keep on updating my content there as well. Take care.